Hello everyone, my name is Joelle and I'm the engagement organizer here at the Couchiching Conservancy. If you are a volunteer or someone who just happened to come across this video, welcome to this training session called Conservancy 101. Today I'm going to go over a basic overview of who we are, what we do, and why protecting land is so important. For our volunteers specifically, having a good understanding of the organization and the work you are a part of is really important, whether you're working in the field or at a booth. This video will give you enough information to hopefully feel comfortable and confident when talking to others about local land conservation. So let's get started. So where it all began. So the Couchiching Conservancy was founded in 1993 when a group of passionate individuals gathered around a kitchen table and wanted to protect important and beautiful wild places in the region. These are some really great photos from the archives. This is when the Wilkins signed their easement agreement, and this is actually what Grant's Woods looked like way back when the Grant family were actually living here. We actually converted the farmhouse into the office, which is still standing, and renovated that in 2016. And then, the Grant family donated their property to the Conservancy, and it's now known as the Grant's Woods Nature Reserve. If you have some time, I would really suggest checking out our website. There are some great articles there that talk about the history of Grant's Woods and the Couchiching Conservancy. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I would definitely head there. So our mission is to protect the special natural features of the Couchiching region for future generations. So what is a land trust? So having an understanding of what kind of organization we are is really important. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to the local nature reserves as parks, or they'll call us the Couchiching Conservatory. Those are both incorrect, but that stems from them not really understanding what kind of organization we truly are. And we are a land trust. So this is a graphic that I put together that kind of outlines the really basic determinants of a land trust. So essentially, to keep it really simple, a land trust is a nonprofit charitable organization that acquires important natural areas to conserve and protect forever. That's one word I really love, is the forever. Forever is a long time, and I mean it can mean different things for different people. But to me, that means that my children and my grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren will have access to the places that I love to explore and appreciate, and that's pretty extraordinary. Land trusts work to protect natural places forever. And they do it through a number of ways. It's usually through a purchase, a donation, or conservation easements. So why land? Why should we protect wild places? And for you, that might be a really easy question to answer. But for someone who, doesn't really love spending time outside or doesn't necessarily connect with nature because they don't have access to natural places, that question might not be that easy to answer. And that's totally okay. But here are some reasons why protecting land and protecting nature is so important. And one of the reasons is it protects our ecosystem services. So these are services that essentially humans need to survive. So those are things like access to clean drinking water and clean air, and protecting land filters our drinking water. Most of our drinking water comes from groundwater, and that water gets filtered by forests, gets filtered by wetlands, and then clean air, of course, when we protect forests, those trees are giving us oxygen to breathe. Protecting land also helps mitigate climate change. So when we protect forests, again, they are absorbing that CO2 from the atmosphere. We're also reducing flooding. So like I said, forests and wetlands and any type of natural area really is a permeable surface for water to get absorbed into. But if we pave something over like a forest and replace that permeable substance with something like pavement, which water doesn't go through, that water has to go somewhere, and often cases it ends up in our basements, unfortunately. Another reason why protecting land is important is it protects habitats for species, especially those species that are at risk. So for example, this picture up in the corner here is a very tiny and cute map turtle that one of our staff members, Toby, took. And protecting habitat is protecting places for these little guys to live. And every turtle species in Ontario is currently at risk. So protecting their habitat is really important. Protecting land also means that we're protecting our lakes and local waterways. So I think this is something that people often overlook, but there are a lot of cottages out there and people love their cottages, and protecting land ultimately protects the lake that they love to canoe and kayak on or fish, because those forests and wetlands that we're working to protect act as natural filters for water that eventually run into our local lakes, rivers, and streams. I think especially over the last year, we've noticed that nature is incredibly important for our physical and our mental health. Getting out on the trail, moving your body, and connecting with nature are so important for our health. Being able to disconnect and escape from the busyness of society is so important for our mental health. So having access to protected areas with trails or places to explore is really important. And of course, like we mentioned, and this statement is in our mission, when we protect nature, we're protecting it for future generations. So how does the Conservancy operate? So the Conservancy is run by staff members, but volunteers are really the heart of the organization. This organization was built off the support of volunteers, and they continue to be the driving force of many of our programs, campaigns, and stewardship of nature reserves. So we have various volunteer committees within the organization that all play a really important role in decision making and moving the protection of nature forward. So some of the committees include, the Passport to Nature Committee, the Development Committee, Membership Committee, and then other groups as well, such as the Past President's Council. We also have a citizen science program with close to 200 volunteers that are monitoring species and operating maintenance on the local nature reserves. We also have an ambassador program, which I'm sure some of you who are watching this are ambassadors, and they engage the public in our work. And then we also have other volunteer jobs as well that also support the protection of nature. And while staff actually play a really important role in decision making, board members are also really important. So they are volunteers who provide strategic direction and oversight on important issues, and they ensure that our work is on track and moving in the right direction. So one question I seem to get a lot actually whenever I'm talking to the public, they ask, where do you get your money from? How do you generate funds? How are you able to purchase a property? And the answer to that is people like you. So everyone who is watching this, you all play a really important role in helping the Conservancy protect nature in the region. So our community is composed of passionate individuals who care about nature and want to ensure that the places they love are protected for future generations. So 85% of our total funding actually comes from community support. So you are all very important when it comes to protecting nature in the region. And then, of course, we have supporters and members and local businesses. They all help fund acquisition and programs. And then we also have support from foundations and government organizations. So how do we protect land? So I think one of the biggest things to understand is that we don't just pick a random property to protect. We look at land that's located in certain areas or have certain characteristics that make them really special. So this is actually outlined in our acquisition strategy, which was developed over the last couple of years. So with the support from other land trusts and organizations, staff and volunteers, they looked at our entire region we work in, and they mapped out several priority areas that have really important pieces of land. And to determine whether or not they are important, they looked at species at risk sightings, habitat types, reptile and amphibia data, bird data, and they looked at all of these things and essentially determined what areas were most important. And now that we have these areas mapped out, over the next 5 years, we will be working to protect land throughout these priority regions. And one of the biggest things that we're working towards is building corridors of connected wilderness. So if you don't know what a corridor is, these are essentially bridges and protected areas for species to move through. So corridors actually reduce fragmentation, which ultimately has a really big impact on species survival. And also as climate change progresses and gets worse, it has been determined that species will be heading more north to escape the rising temperatures, and they will need natural places to move through. So one really great resource that I linked below is a YouTube video called How Do We Decide What Should Be Protected? And that's actually was done by our executive director, Mark Bissett. He basically goes over how our acquisition strategy was developed and how we determine what pieces of land to protect. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I would definitely check out that video. So as previously mentioned when I was covering what a land trust is, we protect land in several different ways. So we purchase the land. So this is essentially where the Conservancy purchases a piece of land from a landowner, whether it's private or corporate. We also received land donations. So this is where the Conservancy receives a donation of land from a private landowner. We also have a conservation easement, and this is an agreement between the Conservancy and a private landowner. Now the landowner continues to own and use their property, but there are certain restrictions placed on the land to protect the species and the habitat. And that easement agreement essentially stays on that property even after the landowner sells it. So we also partner with other organizations to protect land. So this is where we would partner with other organizations. In the past, we've partnered with Ontario Parks or Nature Conservancy of Canada, and together we work to raise funds and purchase and manage the property together. So the landowner stewardship program is something I stuck in here as well because this is one of the ways we're working to protect land. Now, we don't necessarily have ownership over the property like through the landowner stewardship program, but staff are working directly with private landowners to help them protect and steward their own properties. This is a new program introduced in 2020, and we're continuously growing the program. And yeah, we support private landowners, teach them skills, provide them with knowledge and advice for them to implement low cost but highly sustainable projects on their property. So this is our lovely property map, and I know I mentioned before those priority areas that are determined in our acquisition strategy, so you can kind of see them outlined here. We have the Cardin-Alvar, we have the Black River Wildlands, we have Matchedash Corridor, and we have the Minising to Matchedash Corridor. So these are all the priority areas that we will be working to protect land in over the next 5 years. So to date, we actually have around 50 nature reserves that are protected, and thanks to your support, that number continues to grow. We also have around 13 nature reserves that are have walking trails on it, and the public can go and explore and enjoy these beautiful places. If you've never visited a Conservancy Nature Reserve, I highly recommend it. They're all beautiful places, and they connect you so much to nature. And there is a full property map on our website where it's interactive. You can click around on it and find, what nature reserve is closest to you. You can find trail maps there and more information. Caring for the land. So this is largely where our citizen science program comes into play. So these are teams of volunteers who monitor and steward many of the nature reserves that we protect. So they monitor for indicator species such as frogs and salamanders. And indicator species are essentially species that are very sensitive to changes in their local environment. So it's really good to monitor their populations over the years to see if they are in decline and if it's in a result of surrounding stressors in their environment. So teams also monitor for species at risk. This plays a really important role in our acquisition strategy, which I mentioned before. Other things they monitor for are, whippoorwills, reptiles, frog monitoring. They do water quality testing. They do a lot of things, and each year different programs and job opportunities get added. Teams also monitor for species at risk. Oh, I already mentioned that, sorry. And then, so to date, we have submitted, or the volunteers have submitted 1,441 species at risk records to the Natural Heritage Information Center. So we also have a team of land stewards who monitor all of the Conservancy nature reserves, and they identify incursions, safety hazards, any type of vandalism, and maintenance issues. And then once these issues have been reported to staff, we then have property maintenance teams that go out to specific nature reserves to repair signs, control invasive species, mend fences, and cut dangerous trees, and just keeping the trails very safe for public use. So our programs, one of our biggest programs throughout the Conservancy is our Passport to Nature program. And this is a year-long program with dozens of free events and webinars that get the public outside to the local nature reserves and teach people about a variety of topics ranging from photography, species identification, birding, and so much more. Typically, we develop a Passport to Nature booklet, which features all of the events for that year. And we are actually able to offer the events for free thanks to our wonderful sponsors. So these are incredible local businesses that support this program, and then their ad gets featured in our booklet, on our website, and whenever we are featuring an event, on our social media. And then, of course, which has been mentioned already a couple of times, but we honestly couldn't do the work without them, is our volunteer programs. So we have an ambassador program, as I'm sure a lot of you are a part of who are watching this video. This is a team of dedicated volunteers who engage the public in our work. So they attend public events, chat to people on the trail, participate in phone call campaigns to supporters, they assist with Passport to Nature events and webinars, they do garbage cleanup, and they do so much more. We then have our citizen science program, of course, which I've mentioned, our land stewards, our property maintenance, and then we also have volunteers that come into the office and support and help with phone calls. They do data entry, they help with mailing. We also have volunteers that help with social media, and then of course we have so many other volunteers that pitch in here and there to help protect more nature in the region. Ways to support nature. So whether you're looking for or to take a next step in protecting the places you love, or you're wondering what you can share with a friend or family member of how they can do or how they can take the next step, here are some ways to do that. So you can volunteer. If you are interested in becoming a volunteer, you can visit our website. We have all the information and jobs listed there. We also have an online application form that you can fill out if you're interested in getting involved. We also have events that you can attend. Not only do you learn more about the Conservancy through attending an event, you connect with some incredible people that are involved in the Conservancy community. And also you learn a ton about nature, about your local nature reserves, and about different topics. You can also become a member. So membership is a really great way to support nature in the region, actually. Members take the direct role in protecting the natural heritage of our community, and they also drive conservation efforts forward. So it's $40 for an individual membership and $60 for a family membership. And, that may seem like a really small step, but when we take these steps together, we have such a massive impact on nature in the region. And also, as a member, you receive our monthly e-newsletter, you gain voting rights at our annual general meeting, and of course, you gain a sense of pride and ownership, each time you visit a nature reserve. And I think that's one of the really cool things about becoming a member or, supporting nature, is that when you walk a trail at a nature reserve and you look around at all the beauty and how incredible it is, you just stop and say, wow, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of the Conservancy's mission to protect places like this. And that's a really neat feeling to have. So if you're not a member, I highly suggest becoming one, because you also get connected to such a wonderful community. Another way to support nature in the region is to donate to a campaign. So campaigns is something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but we often have certain campaigns that are on the go to protect nature in the region, whether it's a campaign to protect a specific property or a campaign to protect, a whole region. Donating to campaign is really beneficial and does a lot. Monthly giving is also another really great way to support nature. It's also really easy. You can sign up once as a monthly giver, and you don't have to remember to renew your nature subscription. Essentially, is just automatic. So whatever amount you choose to donate, that gets taken out of your bank account every month automatically. So you don't even have to worry about it. Protect an acre is something that a lot of people love to do around Christmas time for gifts. So essentially it costs around $25 to protect 1 acre of land. So this includes things like stewardship and maintenance and citizen science projects. So when you donate $25, you're essentially helping to protect 1 acre of wilderness in the region. The Heartwood Fund. So this was put together by our past President's Council, and this is essentially a forever fund. So it's a protected endowment where the income is dedicated to supporting the core of the organization forever. So ensuring that even if the market crashes or something happens, the Conservancy will be able to do the work it's doing long into the future, regardless of what happens, which is pretty incredible. Campaigns. So the Conservancy has ongoing campaigns to raise funds for specific projects to conserve land in the region. So our campaigns are always changing. This is why I didn't specifically list campaigns that are happening right now, because if you watch this video in 3 years' time, there might be totally different campaigns that are on the go. And sometimes we have campaigns that happen over a couple of months, such as raising funds for the Cedarhurst Alvar. And sometimes we have campaigns that are multi-year, and that's something like, the Corridors campaign. So that's happening over several years, where we're continuously raising funds to protect land in the Black River Wildlands region and also the Cardin Alvar area. If you are a volunteer, it's a really good idea to have a strong understanding of what campaigns are taking place, so you can spread the word and also encourage others to support them, especially if you are an ambassador and you're talking to the public at a booth or on a phone call. It's really great to have knowledge of what campaigns are happening and encourage people to take part. And again, Our website is probably one of the best ways or best resources to find all of this information. You can go there and read more about campaigns and the specific campaigns that are happening. Okay, so that is a general overview of the Couchiching Conservancy. There is a lot more I could share, and I could talk about the Conservancy for an entire day, but I just wanted to keep things simple and again give you a general overview so you feel comfortable and confident when talking to the public. Of course, as you continue to volunteer, or if you decide to join our community, you will learn more about the Conservancy, what we do, and most importantly, you'll be able to see your support put into action, which is really, really cool. If you're interested in reading more about the Conservancy and what we do, again, I would suggest checking out our website. You can literally find anything there, and you can take your next step, whether that's becoming a member or volunteering. That can all be done on our website. Our annual report and strategic plan, which I mentioned our strategic plan a couple of slides ago, but these are also two really great documents where you can get an overview of our year as well as where we're headed over the next 5 years. So definitely, if you're interested in learning on what our goals are, I would check out the strategic plan. And if you're wondering what we accomplished together as a community in the last year, I would definitely suggest checking out our annual report. Also, our YouTube videos. There are some really great videos on there that dive deeper into acquisition and campaigns. You can see our volunteers into action, webinars, and so much more. And if you're interested in staying in the loop in the work that we're doing, I suggest following us on social media. So we have an Instagram and Twitter account, as well as Facebook. And if you have any questions or want to learn more, you can always reach out to a staff member. I've put my email address down below. It's engage@couchiconservancy.ca. And again, you can always reach out if you have questions. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this presentation and this training session, and now you're up to speed on the most important things about the Conservancy, and you are ready to go out in the public and spread the word about getting involved and helping to protect the beautiful and wild places in the region. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.